Hello, I'm Mojo, and this,
Matthew.
he's the director of A Bleeding Gift, and we would like to say today, you should give your life to Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. So we're going to talk about the behind the scenes.
Well, we got two different niches going on there.
Yes.
Are we preaching or are we talking behind the scenes?
We're talking about the behind the scenes.
Okay. But you should still give your life to the Lord.
Yes.
Yes.
Amen. Hallelujah. Okay, so the first question I have for you, Matthew Gonzalez, describe the planning process of shooting a poem like this. And imagine your 15-year-old self is here watching, however age you were when you were getting into this.
Yeah. The process. Writing this?
The writing, the script, the visuals,
Yeah.
The shot listing.
So I have 10 to 12 poems that I wrote years ago, almost 10 years ago. It's been that long? Wow. Time flies. But the poems have been sitting, collecting dust for a long time. And when I revisited them about a couple months ago or so, maybe longer than that, I started to see that there can be visuals that can tell these stories, or you can string along a narrative. So really my intention was to just make the poetry, visual representation of that. So the first thing I did was revisited the poem and rewrote it, because I feel like I've grown as a writer, grown as an artist, grown as just knowing what poetry is more so now than even when I wrote it. And so it started with rewriting the original poem to make it more visual. The thing with screenwriting, with script writing, or writing for a visual medium like film or video, you need to make your message, your theme, or whatever you're saying in that a visual representation of it, right? So that was my goal at the outset. And of course, the temptation when I started writing it was the Great Resistance, right? Was, well, it's not perfectly visual. It's not, am I being too on the nose, or maybe this part, I'm just saying it because I have a stand-up too in the video, right? Where I'm just saying, you see my face, and I'm just reciting the poem. And that was tempting to get at me, to stop me from writing it, because I'm like, it's not perfectly visual, but that's my goal, right? But I pushed through that anyway, and just come at the end of it, we have a visual piece of the poem, which is really good. And so also I think the other driving force creatively is to try and think of what location can inspire the visuals for that poem, right? So for this is very nature driven. Trees, because Jesus died on a tree. They say, the old rugged cross, and they say that also there's some hymns and stuff that call it a tree. He died on the tree for me, that kind of thing. So I don't know, it's something about that cross, what the tree can symbolize, for us as Christians too. Yeah, am I missing any part of that you wanted to?
No, that was all great, man. That was all great. There's always so many ways you can go with a question or with a follow-up question. So this time, since you brought up some of your visuals, I think I'll go that way. So, which I know originally when we were working on it, by the way, I was, I guess, a DP or camera operator. I don't know. I was also working on it. So when you were working on it, you had one set of visuals that you were originally planning, which may have been more literal to the figurative speech in there. And then later, you decided to be more, I guess, figurative or symbolic or less literal. Can you talk about some of the changes between the physical representations of the speech that we were going to do to the less physical representation that we're doing now, that we did do?
Yeah, so the first rendition of the script or the poem, I initially had an actual gift box, because the poem is called A Bleeding Gift, right? So initially I had this idea, these cool shots in mind of opening a box, and then the camera is like looking from inside the box, and I uncovers and I look in the box, and I'm discovering this box, and I see this light just kind of illuminates my face, and it's like a golden color light, and so on. It has a mixture of the nature thing, and I'm like deflated as walking on the path, and then I discover this box, this gift box, and maybe it had blood on it or something. It's because the poem again is bleeding gift. That's a part of the poem. So that bleeding gift, what if it was an actual gift that I discovered, and it's symbolizing, it's kind of literal, but it's the literal part of it is symbolizing the gift of grace, the gift that Jesus gave us on the cross, right?
Yeah.
But after mulling that over, and after some challenges, and again the resistance coming at me saying no, you know, I have to make a gift box now. Now I have to try and figure out what kind of gift box, what is it going to look like, and all the details of the gift box. So I started trying to wrap my head around this whole gift box idea. And then finally I just kind of caught myself and said, hold on, this poem is not about a gift box, right? It's about Jesus and his blood saving us, you know, and also making it harsh. Like, so instead of focusing on a gift box, like a bleeding gift in that sense, I changed it from that to, okay, well, what is the poem, the essence of the poem really about? So I went back to the drawing board, thought about it, and thought, okay, this poem is more about the harsh reality that we really do spit in Jesus' face with our rejection of him. We really do with our immoral acts, whether it's telling a little white lie, stealing once when we were a little kid, or the more heinous acts of violence in the world that people commit, murder and all these things, right? So the human race is just riddled with, we're all sinners, we have sin, we're riddled with sin, we that's our character, our nature, right? But God, even though we hate him with these acts, even though we're denying him with these acts, yet he bled for us, like he died for us. And that is an awesome reality. It's a terrible thing too, in the sense of it's a tragedy that he has to do that. But it's a beautiful thing because he did that too, you know. And just the rawness, the realness, like the even the terrifying aspects of that, or just the brutal aspect of that. I guess we saw that in Passion of the Christ, right?
Yep.
Just that brutal visuals to represent his love for us. And that's kind of like the essence. So I was like, well, and actually my wife, I can't take all the credit, my wife always has some prophetic 2 cents in there, and she's like, well, what if you just pour blood somehow, you know? And I just thought of hands. Yeah. Because hands is very representative of Scripture too. I think Isaiah, it says, you know, he writes our name in his hands. He inscribes our name in his hands. So, and plus he was crucified with his hands being a huge part of that, right? And doubting Thomas showed his hands to, you know, he showed his hands to Thomas when he doubted him, his scars. So it's just like that hands, what do they symbolize? And then to have the blood poured out. It's like you have your hands up like this because you're receiving something or you're giving something, right? Yeah. And in this case, in the poem, the hands were supposed to be to receive a gift, and instead of a gift box, you're given blood. Yeah, it's like, whoa, that's kind of harsh, and in slow motion too. That's like, whoa, you know. It kind of reminded me after I looked at the footage of that shot, it kind of reminded me of the first pouring of it of The Shining. When the blood pours out of the elevator, I'm like, oh, okay, that's actually a cool effect. Yeah. And so that's what motivated the change from the gift box, is the resistance trying to get at me again. And then just going back and saying, okay, let's look at the essence of the poem and let's go with that instead of,
yeah. You know, and that's really important for you young filmmakers out there to, you know, really dig down to what is the actual essence of the poem, because sometimes you can easily get distracted with your first creative idea of it, which was a gift box, and then you miss that the essence isn't about the gift. It's actually about, you know, what Jesus did for you, that sacrifice as you described, which is great. Now, you mentioned the resistance a couple times, so we have to explain what this resistance is. What is the resistance? Who's the resistance? I mean, tell young Matt, tell baby Matt, baby Mojo out there who are watching this video, you know? Yeah. What is this resistance? What are you talking about? Who's trying to stop you?
Yeah. So I think you called it something different when we first talked about it. What did you call it?
Oh, I call it self-control.
Just self-control.
My thing was self-control, but
yeah. Well, I had come across this book. I haven't read it yet, but I've read bits and pieces. I've heard a lot about it, and I'm actually excited to get into it soon. But he did write another book. I think his name is Stephen Pressfield, I think. Anyway, he wrote The War of Art. Not The Art of War, but it's a play on words, right? The War of Art.
Okay.
And his whole thing, and he wrote, I guess, a follow-up book or something, just kind of talking about doing the work, right? I guess that was one aspect of The War of Art, his other book. So in that book, Do the Work, which I did read, he actually talked about the resistance and how it's a very real thing. And I felt it in my own life, where it raises up from your bowels and it like says no. You know, it's the inner perfectionist in you. It's like, yeah, I have this great idea. I have this awesome vision for accomplishing something. But then all of a sudden, almost simultaneously, that instigates this type of resistance. You know, it's like, you know, you can get up and make a short film. You can get up and shoot your stand-up for your poem, or you can go rewrite it, or you can go write the script for your short film, or go paint, or whatever your art form is. And that resistance will always rear its ugly head and come at you. And it comes in many forms, and the book talks about, you know, it coming at you in various ways. I mean, it could be family, you know, that come at you and just doubt you or say how crazy you are for that idea, or it could be, you know, other things as well. But for me, it's mostly internal. It's just inside of me. It's like that, I guess, reasoning voice saying, well, you can't really do that. You're not really good enough to do that. You haven't been in front of the camera in so long. What makes you think that you're going to be able to, you know, do this? And you're not much of a writer, you know. What makes you think you could do this? You know, so it's just that negativity. It's the enemy, you know. It's like an enemy to your creativity, and just being able to push through that and say, you know what, I'm okay with imperfection. I'm okay with done is better than perfect, which is, I've heard many times before. So I didn't come up with that idea, but it's so motivating for me, so inspiring, and I would like to inspire them too with that done is better than perfect. So whatever your creativity is, whatever your creative idea is, your passion project or school project or whatever that idea is, and maybe it's not even in like an art form, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a career path to become something else, an engineer or something else. But that resistance, if you're fighting with that, trust God. Number one, right? Give it to Him, and then step out in faith and trust that process. Because as you step out, more creativity will fuel it, you know, and will guide you to that finished product, I should say.
Well, when you're down, right? I mean, you talk about the resistance is inside of you, and it's saying a lot of doubting things, right? It's telling you can't do this, you're not good enough. Why do you think you can do this, blah, 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 right? I mean, how do you encourage yourself what could you actually say, you know, to other people who are feeling the same doubting feelings, to encourage them, but for them to have the tools necessary to encourage themselves to, I don't know, fight back against this resistance?
Yeah, I think the main thing is do the work, just like the book said. And so I think that to fight back is to push through and to do that one small thing. Like, don't look at the big picture of it and say, I want this to be the best spoken word video in the world, which I know that I've done my research on YouTube. There's so many spoken word artists out there, and they have so many videos on their hundreds of videos on their YouTube channel that are high quality. You know, they have teams helping them. They are better writers than me. They have, you know, they're even better rappers than me, or whatever you want to call it. Like they're doing it. They have the showmanship and all this. But I was like, you know what? That goes to show there is an audience for it. Number one, this is something that's really close to my heart, and I want to do it for God's glory, because it's exposing who He is, you know, and what He's done in my life, and only I can tell my journey. And so I feel like whatever it is, if you just step out and do the work, like the thing that I've really found to help me get over the resistance is just stepping out, taking that initial step, that one small thing, not looking at the big picture, not looking at all those other YouTubers and comparing yourself, all this stuff, but just saying, what is the one thing that I can do right now? And just stepping into that. And then one thing leads to the next and the next and the next. And before you know, you have a finished product. And you're like looking back like, wow, that was exhilarating. That was awesome. And you have a product that you're proud of. It's not perfect. Like, yeah, I learned something from that. You know, I learned X, Y, Z. I'm going to do that better. Yeah. But for now, I have something finished. And I'm going to move on to the next one, you know. And then the resistance comes again, and then you do it over again, you know.
Yeah.
So I really think that's true. I think Robert Rodriguez, you know, that filmmaker, Dusk Till Dawn? Is that what he directed? Desperado, all those. Anyway,
Desperado, yeah.
So he that director said one time, I saw an interview with him one time, and he said, or I think it was a podcast, and he said that when he was a cartoonist for his school newspaper, he would actually try to go home, like he would be assigned a project, he would go home, and he would lay down in his bed, and he would look at the ceiling, and he would think, okay, where's the inspiration? Where's my muse? What's the image is going to be for this cartoon? Like, okay, and he never got anywhere with that. He never got like a miraculous image shown before his eyes, and he just went and did it. It was so easy, and after that, he just did it. No, he said he would actually have to sit there, pencil in hand, and just do the work.
Yeah.
And okay, you know, draw a circle. Okay, where does that lead? Draw this, and then before you know it, you have something. And maybe it's rough at first, but then you start to shape that. So you got to get the clump of dough on the table first, and then you can start forming stuff, you know, and start spinning that wheel and start creating. And it starts to kind of happen like domino effect.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you've experienced that in your creative process, but for me, that's really helped, you know. So I guess it's kind of a simple answer, just to step out and do the work.
I think
but it could be hard. It could be a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it might be simple, but it is definitely impactful and important and significant for people who are laying around looking for their muse, looking for that fire inspiration.
Right.
No. Put the dough. What was it? Clay.
Put the clay on the table. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Did I say dough?
I don't know. I may have heard dough, but
I may have said dough.
You may have said dough.
I'm hungry.
I may have heard dough, and you may be hungry. Speaking of, make sure it is 1:03. So, unfortunately, we are out of time on this week's episode of Lunchtime with Mojo, or Mojo's Lunchtime, or whatever. I am Mojo. This is Matthew Gonzalez.
That's right.
And we really hope you liked our piece, and we really hope you go out there and put that dough on the table.
I guess if you're a baker, it would be dough.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Put the dough on the table and put the dough in the oven.
There you go.
And put the clay in the oven.
I guess you put clay in the oven too. Yeah, it goes both ways.
Yeah. And give your life to Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior.
And watch out for pancakes.
And watch out for pancakes. Oh my gosh, is that going to be on camera? I'm going to leave that in? I think I'm going to leave that in. I don't know. I love pancakes. I don't know if I want that to be a thing or, you know, whatever. It's 1:03. Thank you for joining us today. And I think it's great. You going to join me later?
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, man.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
All right, I don't know, man. Cool.